Hi, Chuck here again. I've been flying this Kingkong 90 GT for about a week now, and this is my first brushed micro quad, and this thing is pretty fantastic, but I have thrashed it. I mean, I've probably put I'd say about 20 battery packs through it, and it's just a fantastic little quadcopter. I initially flew it indoors with the stock props and the prop guards and basically broke almost all of my props. And the stock props that come on it are pretty much garbage. I mean, these are really flimsy little plastic things. And so I would say don't buy an extra set of these props, but buy the DYS 2030 props. And these are the indestructible, I think they're the polycarbonate material. And you can see on this one, I have just, banged up the edges of the props. It's been crashed probably about 20 times or so with these props, and they just keep on going. So these are the best props to get. Just watch your clearance. There's going to be some clearance issues if you have some wire sticking out. So I just took a piece of electrical tape and just kind of tied them down. But let me just kind of go over my general thoughts on this quad. This is a 90 millimeter quad with a built-in video transmitter and camera. All you need to do is add your own receiver. And for this one, I've decided to use the FrSky XM Plus while I was waiting for a FlySky receiver to come in. I just want to basically use one of my old radios on this. But in any case, first thing I noticed after taking the prop guards off is that at least with the DYS 2030 propellers, this thing becomes a whole other beast. But it does become a little bit more difficult to tune. But I've got it pretty close now. I'm just getting a little bit of prop wash oscillation, at a low throttle. But it flies really well. It does fly like a bigger quad. And when you're flying it, it's just so nimble and razor sharp in its handling. It's just not that powerful with the 2S, though. I mean, you can, with the stock battery, do some nice power loops, but those batteries are pretty expensive, so I ended up buying a few of the 450 milliamp battery. So I did end up buying a couple of the stock batteries. Yeah, they're pretty expensive. I mean, you're talking about $7 or $8 a piece. I had them shipped from overseas, so they're really good batteries, but they're expensive. So what I did is I ended up getting these Florian 450 milliamp batteries. Even though they say 20C on them, they seem to operate pretty well. So I would say, pick up some cheaper battery packs, fly with this thing, just so you can get some battery or flight time, and then if you really want to have the best performance, you're going to want to go with the stock 350 milliamp batteries. It's just a lot lighter. Let me get my scale out. That's pretty dirty here. So in any case, stock battery. What are we looking at? Looking at about 20 grams for the stock. And then with the aftermarket Florian, 34. So, 14 grams on a quadcopter this small is pretty significant. So the performance just goes up when you use the smaller battery. Let's see, what else? Yeah, you've probably noticed that the camera is hanging loose. And really what happens is if you don't use the propeller guards, the camera does stick out and it does have a tendency to get whacked on things. So I did notice that one of the first things that happened. I mean, if you look at the camera is pretty much in line with the props, the leading edge of the props, and it's going to get whacked when you crash into stuff. And one of the first things I noticed is that the glue that held the camera on broke loose pretty quickly. But that was okay, because what I was able to do at that point was actually reposition the angle of the camera. You know, I wasn't going a super steep angle, but just laying it back just a teeny bit. You know, I just maybe moved it back a millimeter or so just to give a slight up tilt on the camera. Just made a huge difference. Let's see. All right, so it goes in this way. All right. Yeah, so just a little bit of up tilt. However, the hot glue that I used just broke loose eventually, so I ended up gluing it a couple times, which was okay because it's quick to do a hot glue, and you don't have to worry about ruining something with the CA glue. But in any case, flew it some more, and eventually ended up hitting a rock with the lens, and I do have a scuff on the lens. So having the camera out here is a liability, but this is such a light quad that the performance of it is just incredible, even on 2S. See, we're looking at what 52 grams just by itself, and then you do the math. Let me see. I put the battery on. 72 grams with the stock battery, and 85 with the aftermarket 450 milliamp battery. So, I definitely highly recommend this. I gave it a thrashing. Really enjoyed it. I've seen people talk about doing a mod where you change out the stock balance plug for an XT30. I looked into that. Those plugs it just gets to be a pain to do. But I will tell you that the stock plug works fine with the stock battery and the aftermarket battery. I just don't think that the motors can actually pull enough to gain the performance on it. But I'm looking at with the aftermarket 450 milliamp batteries, about a 6 to 7 minute run time, and a bit less, about 5 minutes on the stock battery. So one thing I might do is I might just replace the balance lead with a JST, just because all the batteries that I have the JST on it. But the balance lead works just fine right now, so I don't see any problem with losing any performance due to the thin gauge of the wire here. Let's see. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a swap here. So what I ended up doing is I had a camera on the shelf that I ordered a long time ago. Came in this box, mini CCTV camera. It's a CCD. I get confused on what the different types of sensor technologies are. But suffice to say, this is the cheaper technology that is getting better and better. So the video is decent on these. So I ended up ordering this camera, and so it's identical. I had this camera just sitting on the shelf, like I said, but it's identical to the stock antenna. It does come with a microphone on it and some leads, which I removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the stock camera, just desolder it, and put in this replacement identical camera. But while I'm at it, I think I'm just going to go ahead and add in an OSD using the Minim OSD. And what I'm going to do is just wire it in line basically have the camera going into the OSD and the OSD going into the video transmitter. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to place this yet. It could just be stacked on top someplace. I can maybe squeeze it onto the back end or the front end here, or even possibly on the bottom. I just temporarily installed my XM Plus while I was waiting for my XM, the regular XM FR Sky receiver to get in. So it's the same exact size except for it only has one antenna. So I'll be shortening I won't be using the pin connectors. I'll just be soldering directly to the receiver. So I'll eliminate about 2 or 3 centimeters of length on this. I have it all wrapped up in tape right now, and I'll end up just having one antenna. So we'll get that squared up there, and once I shorten up the receiver, I may be able to squeeze the OSD underneath, just along, in front or in back of the receiver, probably in front. And what that'll do is it'll just leave the stock appearance of the quadcopter. Okay, well, I'm just going to wrap up a bit here. So I have the FR Sky XM receiver here. I just opened this up, and it's a very tiny thing. I was saying that I use the XM Plus underneath here. And so what I'll end up doing is taking out the XM Plus and basically wiring in, soldering to the terminals for the XM receiver, and having that mounted underneath. And I'm going to try to squeeze in the OSD as well underneath. I finally got my Kingkong 90 GT put back together with an OSD, and I haven't flown it yet, but I got the OSD running, and everything seems to be working great. So now I can see my voltage from my battery and my RSSI, and most importantly, I like the timer on it. So yeah, let me just give you a quick rundown over it. But basically, you can just see the screen here. Might be a little bit difficult to see. Let me cover the lens. Yeah, so you can see the information being displayed from the OSD here on the little quad. And so let me just give a rundown of, excuse me one second, rundown of the things that I had to do to get this running. So underneath, I have my Minim OSD module installed here, and I have my FR Sky XM receiver. But basically, on the Minim OSD, if you take a look at the pins, you're going to have just 4 wires you need to connect along here. And let me just really point out where you go. So on the side of the Kingkong 90 GT, you have this big connector here, and it looks like they have it set up so you can use your PWM receiver. So in this case, if you want to use an OSD, you have to use an S bus or an I bus, I believe, receiver, so that you can utilize this plug on the side. So I have my power, and I have 2 wires. So I've removed everything else. So if you look at the pin out, so if you go 1, 2 are the power, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are left here. So what you want to do is take pin number 5 off of your flight controller and run it to pin number 2 on your Minim OSD. Pin number 6 on the flight controller goes to the 3rd pin on your OSD. So if you look at this edge here, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes for a pin header, but you only need to use the RX and TX and the power on this. So 4 wires here, and then you can wire the Minim OSD up to get power to show your voltages and your video in and out. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If you take a look online, Oscar Lang is a really good resource. He has a really good tutorial on how to set up the Minim OSD, and I'll put a link to that in my description. So besides that, I just have the OSD just kind of hanging loose here. I did have a problem. The ground pad for my video in on the board came loose from the board, but fortunately they give you several places around the board to ground stuff, so I actually ended up grounding it on this pad here. But you could have also used this last pin header as a ground also for an extra ground. So that was one of the problems I had. The other problem is I think you want to make sure you have your OSD flashed before installing it. I somehow could not get it working. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I had to take it out and flash it separately. But after I got it set up, I was able to use the serial pass-through in Betaflight and get access to the OSD that way. So I can always go in and just use serial pass-through. So that works great now. So in any case, that's the Kingkong 90 GT with the OSD hooked up. And so let me get everything all buttoned up. I'll put some tape across to get it all snuggled down in there, and everything should be good to go. I went ahead and just put a single strip of electrical tape on the bottom to just cover up the receiver and the Minim OSD. So that should be good enough. The screws protrude a bit, so the battery will just be touching the bottom of the tape here. So I think everything should be okay. I think later on I'll go in and do some hot glue and make everything just really nice and tight so no wires get pulled off. But I think this will do for now. But let's have a weigh-in. So got everything on here. It's ready to rock and roll. I have a few additions. I have a new a new JST connector for power. I had another zip tie to run the antenna. But I am running a different receiver this time. I'm running a one antenna XM FR Sky XM receiver instead of the dual antenna. So a little bit of weight savings there, maybe a gram, who knows. But let's take a look at the scale now. Here we go. Without the battery, 54 grams. And with the same battery that I used before, let's see. We're looking at 87 grams. So I think that we're just up, a few grams, adding in the OSD, swapping out the receiver. So 87 grams now. I'm sure it'll use a little bit more power as I'm flying around, but I think weight-wise, we're not really gaining that much. So I think we were at 85 grams before, and now we're at 87 with those few changes. So 2 grams. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had a blast flying my Kingkong 90 GT and hope to get out there this afternoon possibly and rip it up a little bit more. And hope to bring you more of these kind of videos in the future and more techie kind of stuff and flying. So thanks again, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and hope to see you again. Have a great day. Bye.